Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jen, otherwise known as BPD Woman. This channel is for those of you that are living with, managing, struggling with borderline personality disorder, or if you are a friend or family member that is looking for more information to help support your loved one who is dealing with the disorder. I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist. I am a woman who was diagnosed at 21 years old, and for the last 20 years has been managing my illness. I hate to say illness, but my disorder, the traits that make things a bit more dysfunctional for me and less effective, to use a DBT word. In that 20 years, I've spent tons of time and energy and money on DBT, therapists, specialists, books, you name it, I probably own it. So this channel is for you. Welcome. Today's topic, I want to talk about, kind of continuing a little bit from the discussion yesterday about BPD and friends, is 10 steps to finding and cultivating relationships when you're managing your borderline personality disorder, and when to know when to let go of toxic ones. So let's get right into it. By the way, if you like what you see here, subscribe, share, comment. If you do one of those three things, please leave me a comment. I always get strength from other people's experiences. I certainly don't know everything, and I only have one view. That's mine. So please subscribe and contribute. Okay, so top 10 things, in my opinion, that help with maintaining, finding, and navigating friendships, right? For me, friendships precede romantic relationships. So if I can be more masterful with my friendships, then hopefully I can be more masterful with my romantic relationships. Remember, you spend usually less time with your friends than you do with, say, your partner, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. So for me, it's easier to take those steps in increments. So the first thing, number one, taking your time in getting to know someone. Why is this important? Well, for me, I always want to be part of a group or meet a new friend. And so I'm super willing to share a lot of information and put a lot out there, which can sometimes be off-putting to some people. People can pick up if you're oversharing too much too soon without the level of trust that's built in to that other person, right? You wouldn't necessarily go out and tell your life story to a total stranger, right? So taking your time in divulging who you are and taking your time in getting to know another person, because I've struggled with impulse control and emotional dysregulation and wanting so much to be a part of something and not feel abandoned. I oftentimes open up that gate to lots of different people, which has not always served me that well. So take your time in getting to know someone over a long period of time. I once had a therapist say, well, when you're dating, don't you kind of like go on a date and come back and then go back and go on a date and then go home and think about it? And I'm like, oh, is that what normal people are supposed to do? You don't just move in after 6 weeks? Right. So taking your time. Okay. Number two, if you are living with borderline personality disorder, then validation is most obviously something that you struggle with. For me, over the years, it's gotten a lot more manageable to be able to self-validate. And that's my number 2 tip, is to self-validate your own self-worth when you're meeting new people, right? I think oftentimes I found myself thinking, obsessing, wondering, does this person like me? Did what I said in that last text, was that okay? I haven't heard from them in a while. I wonder if they don't like me, right? When you ask yourself, hey, do I like this person rather than does this person like me? It makes you feel more in control and lets you have the option of continuing getting to know someone or not, right? Does this person make me feel good? Do I enjoy my interactions with this person? Do I like spending my time? Do I trust this person, right? Worrying less about what others may think about you and focusing more on what you think about your interactions with them. Are you feeling masterful? Are you living in your goals, in your ethics, right? If so, and you feel good about yourself, then wonder a little bit less about what they're thinking about you and what you think about them, because inner validation is more powerful than getting outer validation. Even though both are super important in my opinion, being at peace with what you think and your decisions are far more powerful. Number 3, be aware of narcissists or people with narcissistic traits and emotional vampires. I don't want to demonize any group of people. There's a lot of videos out there that definitely narcissist shame or borderline shame, or they put them both in the same group. Nobody asked to have these disorders, right? So let's just all understand that these disorders have come out of some kind of trauma or maladaptive learning. For me, it was a super traumatic environment growing up, very chaotic, very violent, very abusive. So what you grow to know is what you grow to sow, right? So for me, my mother was borderline. My father was certainly a narcissist and very violent. The two often attract. I don't think there's enough information out there right now about a narcissist and how they're drawn to a borderline, but it makes perfect sense, right? Narcissists don't have empathy. Borderlines have tons of empathy and feelings, right? Narcissists need to feel validated through others' attention or interactions. Borderlines aim to please, right? If you read the criteria, codependency and borderline, they're pretty similar. And in between there, I would say, is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I digress. Be aware of narcissists and emotional vampires, because these are not the people that generally you want in your life, right? Of course, there may be situations where you're going to have to deal with them, right? A coworker, a boss, hopefully not. But when we're talking about friends and making friends and interpersonal relationships, be aware of people who, at the end of hanging out with them, you feel drained, you feel invalidated, you feel gaslighted, you feel like you're putting more in than you're getting out. Remember that quantity does not necessarily mean quality. Having one friend, good friend, that is supportive and validating and understanding and communicative and shares your goals and your values is a lot more powerful than having 10 friends who maybe are in and out, don't really care about you that much, care more about themselves. Okay, number 3. 4, find people that support you. There was a time when I was a hardcore addict, drinking, drugs, right? A lot of my friends were people who came to my parties or people that went out to bars with me. When I got sober, I certainly lost a bunch of friends. That's okay, right? When I decided to take more control over my mental health, I eventually started seeking people that supported that, right? People who were invalidating to me, it didn't last very long. People who belittled me and my work, I could not have that. That was destroying to me. So it's important to see people who understand you as a person and what your values are and are there for you, right? If you are a non-drinker, it's probably not best to be hanging out with people who drink all the time. If you are committed to your DBT, it's probably not a good idea to hang out with a bunch of people who think that's really stupid or that it's all in your head. So, number 5, once you have found people that are valuable to you and healthy for you, use your DBT skills. These are so important. Once a week, there's a great app out there. I think it's just called DBT, and it has diary cards, report cards. You can even send them to your therapist if you want. And there are, you can track all of the different DBT skills, and you can even add your own and edit your own. once you've found people that you want to be with and that are valuable and healthy for you, then use those interpersonal skills, the dear mans, the gives, you know, you want to use those in ways that help you nurture relationships. For me, when I really started getting into DBT about 7-8 years ago, it was hard. You know, I had to like, okay, D stands for this, E stands for that. Now I can be like, okay, right, describe, express, ask, reinforce, being mindful, be willing to negotiate, right? Now they come fairly easy, but they won't, right? You need to be able to practice something pretty long term for it to be kind of part of your fabric. So use those skills. And I think that you will find that over time, they will benefit your relationship. Okay. Next, number 7. Are we on 7? Okay. You got to get out of the house. You got to meet people, right? You're not going to meet them at home. You know, my mother was someone who stayed at home a lot. You know, when she was feeling depressed, you knew it because she closed the curtains. She didn't answer phone calls. She self-isolated. And I have had to learn, and it works, to not do that. If I'm feeling sad, okay, maybe I do need some time to just decompress. However, don't sit in that too long, right? Avoiding the situation. Get out, meet people. It's so hard right now. You know, in my line of work, I work for myself. I take care of animals for a living. And so there's not a lot of people. I don't see people at the office. I work for just me. So my ability to meet a lot of people is severely reduced. And now because of our pandemic, this global pandemic, it's even super reduced. So, but it's still possible to go out and meet people safely right now. Hobbies, right? Like, do you like making crafts, right? Is there a meetup group that would suit you? Do you have a dog? Go to the dog park, right? Try to meet people, you know, start an appropriate conversation because you're definitely not going to meet people at home. Okay, 8. Remember that catastrophic thinking and obsessing is never helpful. It may feel like it's helpful. You may think like, oh, maybe if I just keep thinking about this situation, I can find a solution, right? I know I've done that. I know for me, worry has been something I've battled with and continue to have to manage. But remember that it rarely helps. And when it comes to friends, for me, I tend to catastrophize. Let's say if I don't hear back right away, or, you know, if I don't see a message has been delivered that I've sent over social media, or whatever, I haven't heard from them. You know, oftentimes I will go right to, they don't like me, they've blocked me, oh my God, what have I done? You know, then I get on that emotional Ferris wheel, like, oh, I haven't heard from them, they don't like me, I'm a loser, no one's ever gonna love me, oh God, how old am I gonna be? And I'm just gonna go over and over and over. To stop, get off that Ferris wheel, get on a slow, get on, you know, a slower path, and remind yourself that just because you haven't heard from a friend doesn't mean that they're upset with you. Just because you've had a disagreement or argument does not mean it's the end of the relationship. You know, conflict is a time that you can use to resolve your problems together. If you give in to those catastrophic thoughts, if you give in to having an argument, think it's going to be the end of the relationship, and so hey, fuck it, why don't I just say everything that I want to say and be super nasty, and I'm going to hurt you just how much I hurt, then you can lose a friendship, right? You can burn that down, and it's hard to walk that back, even though you may be able to make a repair or an amends. Just remember that stopping yourself, stopping and controlling that catastrophic thinking, and knowing that just because you and I might think in black and white that an argument means the end of a friendship, it doesn't. Most people don't think that way. You know, if you think a friend is ignoring you or has their phone off the hook, instead of internalizing that and personalizing that, thinking there's something wrong with me, maybe they're mad at me, I've done something, instead say, hey, haven't heard from you. Everything okay on your end? Anything I can do for you? That's also going to give you a sense of mastery. And hey, to have a friend is to be a friend, right? Okay. All right. Number 9, be okay with releasing current friends that aren't helpful to you. We talked about this a little bit earlier about narcissists, emotional vampires. People in your family, right? Just because someone's in your family doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy for you to spend a lot of time around them. Be okay with releasing people that, say you always feel like you have to maintain a relationship. There are definitely friends I've had where I'm like, I've got to send all the texts, I've got to make all the plans. Well, you know what? That doesn't sound like friendships to me. That sounds like I'm kind of stalking you and then you kind of go along with things. I could be wrong. However, it's give and take, right? Friendships are give and take. So know that it's okay to weed out that garden. And if there is a vine that's attaching itself to your sunflower, it's okay to take out that vine and let your garden grow, right? You take out a weed, something beautiful might pop up. Again, also remember this human factor, right? Not everything is a direct result because we have a personality disorder, right? Like, I read an article not long ago. Most people, their whole cycle of friends recycles every 7 years. So the friends that you have right now, 90%, I'm making up this percentage, but it did say every 7 years, 90% of those will not be here in 7 years, and you'll have a new set of friends. So remind yourself that that's okay, right? Finally, be gentle with yourself. If you grew up like me, you grew up in a chaotic environment where your parents argued, or there was a lot of trauma or abuse or poverty or whatever traumatic event happened to you, and kids didn't come over, or, your mom wasn't sober enough to have play dates, or your father was arguing and argumentative, so you didn't get invited to many other kids' birthday parties. I know that was my case, right? And so from a very early age, I felt like I didn't fit in and that I didn't have friends. That chaotic environment is something that I've had to kind of assess, reevaluate, and look at now. I didn't have the social skills growing up, and now I have to have them. And even though I may be 40 or you may be 30 or 20, you may be still at a place where you're learning how to socialize, maybe a 10, a 15, a 20-year-old level, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's better to learn than to never learn, right? It's better to try than to not try. There are definitely times that I get let down, or I think I will never be rid of these traits. I'm going to be alone. All of that core content that comes in, that talks to me, right? No one's ever going to love you. You can't make a relationship last. You're not going to have a lot of friends. A lot of people with personality disorders and a lot of people that don't have personality disorders deal with the same things. When you look out the window, there's not a lot of difference between them and us. Right? So just be gentle with yourself. Hey, I'm working on it. I'm trying. And that's my advice. Again, my name is Jen. I'm BPD woman. I am a woman who lives, manages BPD. I read tons of books, articles. I have been in several DBT courses that have spanned a couple of years now, probably. And I like to think of myself as a junior expert. Not a doctor, not a life coach, just somebody imparting my wisdom and experience to others. And I hope that it's helpful. And thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.